Hey, my name is Larry Allen Dykes, and I was born here in New Albany, Mississippi, May 4th, 1946. I'm a longtime resident here. I left for a while. I was in the military, and I moved away for a while. But my main goal was to come back home and do what I could to help in my neighborhood, my community, and my town. My father was named Jesse Dykes, and my mother was named Eloise Eloise Lowe. They were born in the Cherry Creek area. That's where they were born and raised, and they moved to New Albany. My father worked at the Federal Compress right across the railroad track there, and my mother was worked for a doctor, Dr. Bostic, matter of fact. So I went to school from I started in 52 and I graduated in 65. I have a older full brother, Jesse Dykes. He's 4 years older than me. I was the youngest of all of my siblings. I had older brothers that were from separate marriages, and I didn't know a lot about them because when I was born, they were practically grown. And during that time, people was migrating to try to find better jobs and a better living. So the relationship with my family was good when we were together, but it was separated and divided because I had people lived in different states that only got to come home at certain times, and we didn't live around each other. We got to visit them, and my mother's family lived in Detroit, and my father's family lived in Pennsylvania. So there was a great divide in our families during the time for me. I grew up almost like a only child because I was the youngest, and my oldest brother next to me was 4 years older than me. I lived in the community right down by the railroad track. They call it Dumb. That's where I was born and I was raised in that community. I lived there until I graduated from high school. I didn't have a lot of family members that lived there, but it was like family too. Everybody knew each other. I had one other aunt that lived in that neighborhood, and she had like, I think, 6 or 7 kids. And the rest of the people in the neighborhood was elderly people. But we all knew each other and we were like family. We took care that my daddy took care of each of them. He had gardens. He raised hogs. He'd go hunting. He also cooked, and he helped the people in the neighborhood. And I guess that's where I got it from. He loved to help people. There was still a lot of single families when I grew up. It was me and one other gentleman that had a mother and father in the same household. Mostly there was ladies raising families, and it was close knit. It's like a lot as far as living conditions, but like I say, we had love in our community, and we really didn't know we were poor because we had love for each other. It was Union County Training School when I started to school there. And I started in the first grade. Everybody knew Miss C.E. Ford. She was my first grade teacher. She was the first lady that I got to know that really impressed me. She was an awesome teacher, awesome storyteller, and she had a love for the students. That was something that right now is sort of lacking in the school. The love that I shared in the school for with my teachers sort of disappeared as the other kids went to school, and that made a difference in making you want to do something, that you wanted to accomplish something. You wanted to be somebody. Not that you weren't somebody, but be somebody in the sense that you wanted to help and be a part of the worldly things, and do what you could to help somebody. As you gain your reward from God, you share them with other people. We started school, it was 4 of us. Sadly, 2 of them has passed, and I have one friend. His name is Troy Leeper. He lives in Nevada, and we talk a lot on the phone. Now, he's been having some health issues here lately, and so we're trying to keep close together. And I had some friends, there was 4 guys and 4 girls, and one of the young ladies has passed. There's still 3 of them still living, and I keep in touch with some of them, but we don't keep in touch, but we still try to do something. We had a classmate that passed back about 2 months ago, and we take up donations to help the family or do flowers whenever we have a classmate that passed or is in the hospital or something like that. I used to work, I didn't have just a job at first. We used to work at there's an old grape bottling company down here. And when the trucks come in, we would help unload those trucks to make money. And I mowed yards to make money. I sold scrap iron. I did whatever I could because I love hunting and fishing, and I've loved it all my life. I had a BB gun when I was young. I used to take my BB gun and go down to the Tallahatchie River. We called it the Channel, and go hunting and fishing. And it was just me and my dog and my rod and reel and my BB gun. So I enjoyed those things. So I was used to doing things by myself, other than with other people. And my pastor always used to tell us that we need to get used to being by ourselves. And he told us that over the years. And during this pandemic, I see what he meant, really, because we got where we couldn't even visit our children at times. We had to be alone a lot, and that affected a lot of people, and it still affects them to today. People need that relationship. When you don't have it, it does something to you mentally and physically. So I grew up at Malibu Methodist Church here in New Albany until I went to college. After I went to college, I explored, went to several churches. I still have Malibu as my church, even though I went to other churches. In my later years, I went to Mount Zion Baptist Church. My granddaughter, when she was 5 years old, she wanted me to start going to church with her. And I started going to church with her, and I've been going with her ever since. So I played basketball. I was on the football team, but being the youngest on the football team, I didn't get to play football really. I dressed out with them, but I was small for my age. And I think the coach thought that I might get hurt and play out there, so he very seldom would let me play football. But I loved it, and I played basketball. My whole high school years I played. I didn't play when I went to college. I guess I felt a little intimidated by those guys, and by not having a whole lot of experience playing sports, I just didn't play when I was in college. We would have, well, we would go in cars, sometime with the bus. We would go to different places and play. Ripley was our rival sports team. It didn't matter what it was. New Albany had to beat Ripley, and and that's the way they felt about us over the years. I went on a senior trip. We went to Washington, D.C., and we went to New York City. And that was the first time I had ever been in a large city, and that was an experience and I have to get to see that. And I had the opportunity later, when I was in the military, I worked at the Pentagon. And I thought about it. I was able to just go out and go to some of the places I went to when back in '65 when we graduated. And I worked there in the Pentagon. Matter of fact, I worked on the E ward on the same side where that plane hit the Pentagon when it struck the Pentagon. On the bus, it was comfortable, but we were made aware that there were certain places that we were going to be able to go and places that we couldn't go, and to be on our best behavior when we were in different places, because we were going to be in an area where we were unfamiliar with. And but the teachers, Miss Gibson and her son Aurelius Gibson was on there, Miss Turner. They were excellent in watching over us and showing us the sights without us being put in harm's way in any way. It was a real experience. It brought us close together as a class because we got to do something out of New Albany that we never had experienced before. The reason they knew is because there used to be a book. I have one at the house called the Green Book. And in that Green Book, it listed those places where blacks could go of when you're traveling on the street. I mean, traveling on the highways, and you could go. They were made aware, and they had researched it so that they would know. Plus, the bus drivers sure knew where we could go and where we couldn't go. I think the all of them were white drivers.
So they knew.
They knew. I can't really remember. Fish market, the all of the cafes and the eating places that we could go to and was comfortable at. Miss Howard had a snack bar where kids could go, where they had the machines and you could order a Coke or something and sit and relax and talk. Those places, and the Boy Scouts, and it was just all just so much different. The feeling then and now, it's just so much different. It was downtown there. I went with my dad, the pool hall. I was so young, I don't remember much to tell, except I was just excited to go and go to the pool hall with my dad and watch him shoot pool, and go across over to the barber shop with Mr. Gibson, and they had the cab stand, and one of my classmates in school, Daddy owned, Mr. Wade Ivy owned the cab stand, and his youngest daughter and I were classmates in school. We went to school at the same time, but at that time we weren't in school, but we were the same age. Well, he had a restaurant there. Uh, it was mostly a restaurant, a place for people just that would come and sit and talk and relax. There was a cab stand, a restaurant, and a barber shop in those three buildings across. There's only one of those buildings left over there now, but people gathered there, and they would go to the barber shop and they would sit and talk. And Mr. Gipp, he also he fixed shoes. And at that time, when people didn't have a lot of money, if the sole wore out on your shoe or the heel, you take it to him and he'd put you a new sole or a new heel on your shoe. And it was just like a new shoe. But it was more, it wasn't like a business, it was more like a family. It was, it's hard to describe unless you just know how people that's not your family could feel just like a family member when you go there. And they knew you, and they watched over you. You felt safe with them. There was 4 buildings right behind where the museum is, right here in there. And it was the cab stand, the restaurant, the barbershop was all in there. And that other building, I'm too young to remember it. They said it was a movie theater. If it was, I was too young to remember it. I mean, there was the black cabs and the white cab, of course. And I guess of course, black cabs was probably limited where they could go and what they could do. But I was real young when that happened. I can remember some of it, but not enough to know that about it. There's still some of the siblings of Mr. Wade Ivey that lives here that would know and be able to tell all about that, you know. As far as I remember it, it was more down by the Tallahatchie Bridge, I think. I was real young. I'm trying to remember. It's a place over there called the Flats. And there's no houses. Well, one house over in there now, but I think it was right in that area, down where about where the Chevrolet place was. That was awesome for me. We got to go camping and explore in the woods. I love that kind of thing. The gentleman that was our scoutmaster, right now it just skips my mind because I just forget things now. But he was awesome in it. He was he moved to I think it was Illinois, and he was a police officer, and he cared about the kids. He took us out with what we had. We had some tents, and he tried to teach us those things that would help us along in life, other than just coming together, camping, campfires, and cooking our own food over the open fire and exploring, learning about nature, about the trees, and a little about farming and everything. We would meet at church at Malibu church. We would meet there, and that was when I was a kid. As I grew up, I became a scoutmaster for 4 years, and I lived in Red Hill, and we had a community center, and we met there, and we was able to continue those experiences and compete in competition because of the support that I had when I was a kid. I was able to show that support to other people's children as they grew up. I think I was 9 or 10, something like that, when I started. We didn't have the whole full uniform at the time. We had the shirts, We had the shirts and the scarves and the caps, but a lot of time we wore blue jeans. And for those that could afford it, they wore the khaki pants also. It was just one scout troop here in New Albany. Well, I don't know about the white troops, but black, I only remember one. And everybody would join in from different churches. There were some kids that already could play. They could play pianos, guitars, and things. And I wasn't able to because I never was around. Now I had an uncle that sang gospel, and he wanted me to learn how to play the piano so that I could play for them. And I tried, but my patience just wasn't there for that. I just I never tried. There was a gentleman in our class. That young man what was his name? The one that was real good, but the other one that went on was Bill Robinson. He went to Memphis, and I think he used to draw cartoons. He started drawing cartoons. He was good too, but there was another gentleman, I can't think of his name. He was a really good artist. I mean, you could give him an image and he could draw it the way you see it. He was just that good. He has one sister that still lives here. He has two, well, I think he has a sister in Tupelo, and he has two other brothers that has passed away. Lily Robinson was her name. She's married now. I don't know her married name. All of the trophies from BF Ford and UCTS, those trophies got separated, and they said that they got some, but I don't know if they got them or not. It was irresponsible of the school to let those trophies get away. They should have stayed in the school, even though it went to W.P. Daniel. All those trophies and all those pictures, all those graduation pictures, they lined the school from one end to the other. You know, those were memories for our people of all of those. And some of those got destroyed, and we'll never get them back. And some people got them, and I don't know, they holding on to them for memories, I guess. But hopefully we can get something to represent UCTS, because as you know, that they were the only school that ever went 7 years undefeated. I went to Mississippi Valley State the fall of '65, and I majored in business, but I didn't really like business. It wasn't available, and at that time they said that those were areas where a black man could major and get a decent job when they got out of college. So I wasn't influenced by what I liked. I was influenced by my accomplishments later in life of being able to get a job after college. So that's the way I went. I was an outdoors person. Things that I'm interested in didn't even exist in my vocabulary during the time when I graduated from school. I could have done anything working with animals, with fish, with plants, even going to dig up remains. I love all that stuff, and I loved it when I was young, but I didn't have a clue how to get into it, and nobody, most of the people, my family wasn't educated people. For me and my brother, I was the first to go to college, and I had to learn going to college. I didn't know what to expect when I went, so a lot of things caught me by surprise. And the fact that I needed to accomplish this. Here I am, the first, and that put a lot of pressure on you. But I was drafted my senior year, and I needed 7 hours to graduate, and I was drafted into the Army. That was in '69. That was at the same time that Dr. Martin Luther King was killed, and they really they were just drafting. I don't know if it was what the reason was, but we all came up for the draft, and I was drafted into the military. It was a good and a bad thing. I didn't get to graduate at that time, but my military experience, on the other hand, was one that helped bring my life together. I was able to experience things in the military with a little more freedom than I had in the public job system. I wasn't sure, but all my friends were there, and they were encouraging me. And a lady that really encouraged me, and this is what I'm talking about in our community. A friend of mine, a mother, called me, and I'll tell you her name. Her name was Hazel Leeper. She called me and said, "Larry, everybody else is gone to college." Said, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "Well, Miss Hazel, I'm trying to make up my mind." And you know what she told me? She said, "Larry, you go on to college. We'll pay for it. You don't have to worry about a thing. We'll pay for you to go." That was, she was my friend's parent, but she thought enough of me to want to pay for my college. Not borrowing no money from nobody else. They were going to pay for it. And that brought tears to my eyes, and it was just something that stuck with me, and it makes, to the day, I think about her and her feelings for me when I see other people, and that make me want to do things that I do, I guess. I just loved her, and she was funny. She's just so funny. Hazel was she's just something. And Troy and I, we've been friends ever since 1952. We met in school first year, and we've been friends ever since. Her husband was a truck driver at that time, and during that time, there weren't many black men that they allowed to drive trucks. So he made a decent living.
Did she pay for your college?
No, my mother borrowed money for me to go. They said if I wanted to go, they made a loan for me to go for my first year, and then I worked my way through after that. Well, matter of fact, I had friends down there. Charlie Woodruff Jr. He got killed in a car wreck. He was one of our big inspirations. He was the one that told me when I went to college, said that, "Larry said, no matter what we do, no matter what we accomplish in life, we got to come back to New Albany to help make things better here." And he was killed in a car wreck down on 78. But he was one of the best mechanics I ever saw. And he and a gentleman named Henry Cobbs, that name will come up a lot because he's done a lot. They helped us to get a work study program. They helped us to get in, so we was able to work our way through college for 4 years without having to borrow any more money to go to college. So I worked my way through college, and my senior year, which was it was my last year for my work study, and I needed the 7 hours, so I was going to work the semester and then go back and finish, but I was drafted. He was a student at Valley.
Okay.
They were students, and they were well known after their first year when they went down there, and they were able to help a lot of students. They were able to help a lot of students. It was a co-ed school. Well, it was as far as classroom, not as far as dormitory. I went back to my job. I was working for General Motors in Detroit, and I went back to that job, and I worked it, but I wasn't satisfied there. I was itching, I guess, to get back home. And I worked there another 3 years, and desire to come back home was just so strong. I came back, and I applied for a job at Pennsylvania Tire and Rubber, and I didn't get it. So I had a brother in Wisconsin, and I worked 2 years there in Wisconsin. And I came back and I applied for a job with Pennsylvania Tire and Rubber, and I got the job, and that's when we moved back in 1980. So I've been back here since 1980. I was married with a family, and I was working, and so I ended up going to night school with Ole Miss, and I graduated from Ole Miss with a degree, a BBA degree. I got married in '69, and my wife was from Red Hill. She was Annie Daniel, and we had we got 3 children, Tori, Kari, and Melody. And Melody is the youngest, but we always call her the boss. because, but they all doing well, and both my boys was in the Guard. My oldest son has a lung disease now that keeps him from doing anything. It's a hereditary kind of disease that he has, and he spends a lot of time at the VA hospital because of that. And I have much to tell. They went to school at Guntown and Saltillo because I lived on the Lee County side of the line. And they were active in sports. I was active in the school system, summer baseball, and as long as my kids or some of the kids in the neighborhood was doing something, we were there. There were parents that was there to support them. If the parents that other children had to work, then there were still others that went and supported those children. My mother died. Matter of fact, she came when my youngest child was born. She came up, I was in Wisconsin, and she came up to help with my youngest child and with my wife. And she had a bad heart. She had a heart disease. And on her way back home, she had a heart attack and passed. We had stopped in Chicago to visit my brother, and she had a heart attack there and passed. My dad lived a long life. He had a stroke, but he would get out and go around and drive. He still went around and helped people. When I was young, their things on Saturdays would be to put me in the car with them, and they would go around to people's houses. I had an uncle that lived in that crew, and an aunt. They were older. They would go down there, and Daddy would help them kill goats or hogs or work outside, and Mama would go in the house and cook a meal, open up the house and clean their house for them, and cook them a meal and make sure they had food to eat. And there was another gentleman named Mr. Pete Davis. They used to go help him. He was a single man. He was an older man. And Wesley Fuller. They would always go out to try to help somebody that was in need of help. Mama would go in the house and clean up and cook and do everything and straighten their house up. And Daddy would get out there and he would help them in the yard if they had to get up the leaves and whatever. And I experienced that because I was too young to go with the older kids, so I stayed with Mom and Daddy. and I got to see a lot of that, and that was a permanent thing in my life to see that, how they cared about other people. So that it just showed me, and I tried to teach kids even in school, that education is for you to have a career, but education don't do anything for the love and passion that you have for other people in the world. And success, success is not the, if you get a doctor's degree and you're making a lot of money and you got a big house or a mansion with expensive cars. Success is your gratitude for the things that you accomplish, even with the least of the people. The house that we lived in belongs to Mr. Parks. He owned the Chevrolet place. And but she worked for Dr. Bostic and his wife, Mary Bostic. And they had a house down there. So what they did was we traded houses with the people that lived in Dr. Bostic's house because my mother worked for them. And so I'm assuming it was maybe rent free. I don't know. I was just young. You didn't get in business, when you were young. They didn't allow you to just get into grown folks' business. I put it like that. But now there's another thing that I can tell you. When I was growing up, I had an aunt, Aunt Fanny. She was, I believe, they think she was 112. She had been a slave. And they didn't know exactly how old she was, but they knew she was at least 112 years old. And when she was 100, 110, she lived with us for years. And she would go outside and get a hoe and go out there and hoe around the edge of the house, cut the grass and stuff when she was that age.
Yeah. What was her last name?
Lowe. Fannie Lowe. She was at least 112. The reason they didn't know her exact age is because the house where the Bible was in that had her birthday burned. And then my mom and daddy's house burned, and they had another Bible where they had a lot of the information that they lost.
Where is Miss Fannie Lowe buried?
I'm not sure. I think Cherry Creek, because that's where they all came from, and my mom and dad's buried at Cherry Creek. He was a family doctor. He took care of us too. And then they had a son, Robin. He was the same age that I am. You might have known Robin Bostic. He had this eye clinic over here on 15. I was born at the hospital. Let's see, Shan Hospital is the name of it then. It's right there behind where Renaissance Bank is. There was a hospital on that little lot. And I was born at Shan Hospital. I don't want them to just harp over old things of the past, that we can't change the past, but we can help do the future, But we can use the past as a stepping stone for the future, to make sure that those things don't happen again, and to take and live our lives differently and according to those things, and to try to do better. Try to do better with people. I'm very interested in New Albany. I'm interested in the relationship that of the people of New Albany. Everything that looks good is not really as good as it looks at times. I've got a lot of experience, and I've talked with a lot of older people, and I know how things are, and I know people. and I socialize with people because I want to get to know them and want them to know me. I volunteer a lot. I've created several organizations. One was Southside Neighborhood Association, where we would get together and would go out and help the elderly, especially in the black community. There was a lot of elderly that lived by themselves, didn't have any money or help. We would go in, help them clean up the yards, mow the yards. There was no charge for any of this. We just wanted to show that there was a relationship in the black community. We organized the veterans group, where we would come together. The intention of the veterans group was for the black men to come together to work to show support in our neighborhood. I had a lot of experience with that. The older men in our neighborhood always showed support for the younger, especially the younger black men. And I wanted to be a part of doing the same thing. When we came up, we didn't have to just have our parents' presence. So that if we was out there, young boy, 12, 13 years old, mischievous, looking to do whatever, the older boys would take care of us, and they would also pop us on the side of the head if we were doing something wrong, if they caught us doing something wrong, and make us go home. So that stuck in me, and that's what I want to do. I want to be able to help, especially the young men, see their way at an early age so that they don't get caught up in the system. That was the reason why we did a lot of volunteering. I had a community garden for over 7 years, where I did a garden and invited the people just to come. The vegetables and all was free, and the only criteria was for going to get the vegetables was if somebody else was in the garden, you introduce yourself and carried on the conversation with the people so that we would get to know each other to make the relationship better. The relationship with the other races of people, I enjoyed talking with them and expressing myself and hoping they could express themselves. And we have agreement to, we can disagree, and without it being a conflict of any kind. I worked here with the museum, with the kids. I love working with the kids. I spent 21 and a half years in the military, was in Vietnam for 1 year. I did 16 years in the classroom as a teacher, and I retired from that. And I'm working now with the Head Start. I'm assigned as a bus driver, but I work in the classrooms also with the smaller kids. And I'm able to help with them and help to influence them to go on and do the things they do. And I get to introduce to the parents through them. So I'm building a relationship with the people, one that like when I came up. When I came up here in New Albany, everybody knew everybody, but it's not like that now. We have people that live here that I don't even know any of the family roots, and so I'm trying to get to know those people and reestablish a relationship with them that we don't have. I think that's part of the reason why there's so many conflicts, is because there's no relationship anymore. Not even in the races. Even when I came up back in doing segregation, there was more relationship then than we have now. There's a lot of anger going on, and people are angry at each other for no reason, only because of a racial divide. And it shouldn't be that way. I want people to see me as who I am, and my reasons for doing what I do. And I don't want them to see me because of my color and not like me because of that. I have my opinion just like everybody else has theirs, and I'm going to speak my opinion. I think I have enough experience and enough wisdom and enough service in the community to be able to speak and supportive of a lot of people. And servicing, like I said, as a servant, you got to be able to do for the people without any intentions of getting any reward or gaining anything from it. And that's what I've taught my kids. There's a lot of times you do things without any reward. Don't think of everything you do that you got to get paid for it, because you're being paid all the time. The Lord rewards you in your own time, not when you want it, but when he sees that it's available for you to do it. And if you got the wisdom and the know-how and you're able to accept those rewards. Some people can't accept it. They think that that by what they call accomplishments is their own doing. They don't realize that accomplishments the accomplishments that they have is already pre-planned by the Lord. We can't change that, and if we do go in to try to change it, then there's a lot of disasters that comes from those things. I had my good times and my bad times, and I learned from my mistakes. And the Lord is letting me live here long enough to see those mistakes and see the rewards that I've gained from making those mistakes. Because had I not made those mistakes, I wouldn't know what the future holds. I wouldn't know how to tell younger people what to and what not to do. So if you don't know it, then you can't carry it on and you can't tell people. I'm just blessed in that I've been involved in enough things that I'm able to get into my neighborhood and get into the community and the city and do the things that I enjoy doing. I've worked with a lot of kids in school, and I work with a lot of kids now. And my goal is to continue to work with them. I want to see happy kids. I want to see them do what they want to do. I don't want to see a child that's going to college to become a doctor and they really maybe wanted to be in just a common worker and work with people. They get put in positions that they can't handle, and that destroys them in the long run because they're not happy. And I was always told, if you go to work happy, it's really not a job. It's more of an adventure. And I like that because when I get up in the mornings, I'm glad to go where I go and do the things that I do. And after work, we go to the places that I go involved with in my churches. I'm involved with the churches. We delivered meals. A friend of mine and I and an older gentleman, we did Meals on Wheels. We got with 3 different churches doing Thanksgiving and Christmas and delivered meals to elderly people. We got up to delivering somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 to 700 meals during Thanksgiving and Christmas, where we got with 3 churches in the neighborhood, and they would prepare the meals, and we had the list of people, so we would take the meals and go out, visit the people and take them the meal and sit and talk a little bit if we had time. Those are the things that makes that strengthens our community. People talking. There's some anger out there, and there's rightfully so. There's some things that happened back when I was a kid and before I was born that still lingers on in people's hearts and minds, and they haven't had any closure on it because people don't want to even admit these things happen. But until you admit they happen and to see the root of what has started this, then you don't have any chance of changing things. As long as we live in a lie, then we're just shooting ourselves in the foot, so to say. We're not helping a situation at all. But there's a lot of people that want to do right, and they are hung up with race and with religion, and they're hung up with political views that hold them back. Everybody has something to offer, so why not just get together and everybody look at those things that are worked for everybody and discard the rest, and we can work it all out. It sounds simple. I know it's hard, and I know because of culture differences, it takes a while for things like this to happen. Maybe not in my lifetime, but if we start it now, in the next generation, if they keep doing that, then things will get better and better instead of getting worse. We have to just let those people that has all that anger that don't want to change, we have to let them die out. But don't support them. Don't keep it going. Because if you're my age, or you don't even have to be as old as I am to know right from wrong. And I was always told that a sin occurs when you know what's right, but you do wrong, and then you're sinning. But as long as you live and live a life of thinking that things are right, it makes a difference when you find out that they're not right, and then make that change. And changing is hard to do. And I found it was real hard for me to do. When I was young, it was even harder. But as I grew older and I got more experience, I learned that I had to change the old saying that change the things I can, accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. That means a lot to me. The wisdom to know the difference of the things that I can and cannot change. But for those things that I cannot change, I can set a foundation to start them. Maybe somebody else can change them. I'm not here to try to be a hero by no means. I don't want it. I don't care whether or not my name is posted in the history or whatever. As long as I can do God's will and do something to help somebody, then I'm satisfied. I'm not greedy about anything, and the Lord has blessed me along the way, not only to raise my children, but to help with other people's children and to help with elderly people. And I agreed to do this interview because I think that people just need to open their hearts and minds a little bit. And let's say, okay, we're going to make this thing better. We're here to change to make it better. We're not going to procrastinate and say I did this, but didn't nobody else come along, so I quit. If you're here to make a change, you can't quit. You don't quit. You can't retire. You work till you die, trying to do the things that Lord put on your heart to do, because that's part of life. And if you're part of life and you're living, you got to continue to do those things. So I love New Albany. I don't really like what's all this going on here. I don't accept it, but I voice my opinion about it. And if the words that I say can help change things, to help make things better, to help people have a better relationship with each other, then I was glad to do this. I'm really delighted to do it because hopefully that someone will just see or hear what I'm saying, and it changed their heart and mind and make them want to get together to do things better. I wasn't born a leader by no means, but I think that I'm a good supporter. I'm a good supporter of everything that goes on that I see that's right. And I'm a good advocate for those things that I know that's wrong. And I'm going to speak out against those things. Not in a violent way, but to try to help change it to make things better for everybody. And I hope that everybody's hearts and minds are in the right place, so that when we go to church, we got our black churches, we got our white churches, we got our Bibles, and we all reading from the same Bible, but yet and still we on different paths. There's something wrong with that picture. If we got the same Bible, then we need to be taught the same way. But you can take a verse out of the Bible and twist it and turn it to make it mean several different things. And people use that for the things that are not good, but for those people that want to support violence, or want to support racism, or want to support other things other than what's right. And there's no overall gain. There might be a monetary gain, but that won't last, because in the end, the Lord's going to win. The Bible tells us that the Lord's going to win. It don't matter what we do. I remember a story, and I think about this a lot. In literature, we had this story about Oedipus the king. And Oedipus was born, and he was cast out into a village, and he was raised, and a fortune teller told him that he would grow up to kill his father and marry his mother. So to keep from doing that, they sent him away. But in essence, by sending him away, it made the things happen. And so we have to be careful at listening to people and doing things that's trying to do them our way rather than the will of God. Because when we try to make things happen or try to prevent things from happening, we make them happen. So what we have to do is come together more. Come together in our neighborhoods, come together in our schools, come together even at the museum, and see the history of each other, and let each other's history and their past come together. There's some ugly things in the past, and there's some good things. So let's not use them. Use the good things to bring them together, to try to make a better world. I mean, if we don't do it, then we're going to live. Everything is changing. You know, we don't know the change of the weather. I mean, sometimes it's 70 degrees in December, and it might be 40 degrees in May. So our plants, they are blooming. Our fruit trees are bloom in January, and then we have a freeze and we lose our fruits because the weather's changing, and we don't know what's going to happen next. We got a food shortage. We got beverage shortage. We got shortages in everything. And if we don't help each other, then we're going to all suffer from this. I mean, there's no escaping God. I don't care. You can have all the money in the world, but you can't escape God. You can do whatever you think you can do. But one of these days, you're going to do just like everybody else. You're going to die. And I like for my legacy to say that the same as Dr. King, that I tried to help somebody. I just wanted to help somebody. It don't matter what, if they're black or white. I just want to help somebody to do better. And that enhances me to do better. And I'm hoping that the words that I'm saying will benefit the overall growth of New Albany, that it'll benefit the racial relationship in New Albany, and that people will just finally see that they got to come together, because a house divided cannot stand. And we have to try to come together to make this better. I always envisioned New Albany as being that town, that city that was going to bring the whole world together. New Albany could be that thing, because there's a lot of friendship here. I know a lot of people, Spanish people, white people, that I like it, and I talk with a lot, and we share ideas. And that's the only way we're going to make it, just continue to share ideas and continue to do things to support each other and make this town be the town that really, that is destined to be. And I hope that what I said help somebody else in life. That's my goal. If I'm able to help somebody, the Lord has blessed me to be 75 years old, and I used to would think, when I was a kid, I thought people 75 years old, oh my God, you're old, but I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I'm in relative good health. I take a lot of medicine with high blood pressure, diabetes, neuropathy. I got a lot of little ailments, but I take medicine for it. And the Lord's allowed me to go on and to keep working and to keep trying to influence people and to just keep doing the Lord's work, you know, and I'm proud of that. So I give thanks every morning that when I open my eyes, that the Lord had let me make another day.